Hello, my name is Donna Williams, and this is a MOOC about autism as a fruit salad and what the autism as a fruit salad model is. So, usual models of autism are things like the DSM checklist. This tends to be what I call a fairly static two-dimensional model of autism. This idea that you can basically, check certain symptoms, and if somebody's got enough of them, then they fit autism or they don't. And obviously we have moved from a situation where in the 60s it was around 4 in 10,000 children with autism, which was when I was diagnosed in 1965, and that is now around 1 in 100. Some people say 1 in 50. If you ask a classroom teacher, they'll say around 1 in 20. But that's going by that two-dimensional, rather static model, the sort of DSM checklist. Now, as an autism consultant since 1996, I realised that the people that I was working with had dramatically different challenges that were underlying similar looking behaviours. So this is, I guess, a different roads leading to Rome type model. And I developed a model that first was called the 3 Faces of Autism. And this involved whether the person was mono versus multi-track processing was one of those faces of autism, so that non-autistic people tended to present as being able to multi-track in their processing. They could simultaneously process a sense of self and sense of other without going into all other, no self, all self, no other. They could simultaneously process the meaning of what they were seeing and integrate it with what they were hearing and where they were sitting. So they could process several tracks at the same time. And obviously, and being able to speak and track your own speech, for example, being able to listen to somebody and simultaneously process your own feelings and what it is that you had to say in response. So it gives you some idea why being mono in your processing has significant impact on the ability to communicate, to interact, to process information, to learn, and to achieve, your fullest potential in non-autistic, multi-tracking society. So that was one of those faces of autism. Another one of those faces of autism was about whether you're a cat person or a dog person. And that didn't mean that, whether you liked cats or you liked dogs. What it meant was that there are people who have no particular struggle with exposure, with feeling that other people can enter their world. People, non-autistic people who may have no particular difficulty with being with people who are watching, waiting, wanting. No particular difficulty with people flag waving something that they've achieved, drawing a lot of attention to something that they've been doing. And that's quite like dogs. Dogs love, attention. They like, to be drawn attention to. They like the praise and all the overt stuff. They don't mind if you're watching, waiting, wanting. And they don't interpret social pursuit as invasion. If we look at cats, on the other hand, cats are quite hair trigger in terms of their stress responses. They go into avoidance, diversion, and retaliation very quickly. So if you're always watching, waiting, wanting with a cat, if you're pursuing, the cat will perceive it as being socially invaded, and it will go into avoidance. If you keep pursuing, the cat will perhaps divert and behave as if it's much more interested in something else. Please go away. And if you keep pursuing, then the cat might swipe you, scratch you, be more retaliative. And I called this state of chronic involuntary self-protection responses exposure anxiety. And I said that exposure anxiety resulted in involuntary avoidance, diversion, and retaliation responses. So you can see why, if you get caught in that chronic fight-flight state and it's all that you've known, then that's going to affect your ability to communicate. It's going to affect your ability to interact and socialise. It's going to affect your ability to show what you learn, or to even seize your own learning and extend that. So that was the second of these three phases of autism. And the third of these three phases of autism was one that I called sensing versus interpreting. And if you're a person who is very consciously aware and processing, you're living in this interpretive world. You're able to keep up with the meaning of what you see, what you hear. You're processing that, and you're using your own communication with meaning. And you're in a conscious rather than pre-conscious state. If you're working by sensing, you're really in a state that's closer to somnolence. Yes, you're awake, but you're not fully in your conscious mind. You're more in a pre-conscious state. And when you're in that world, you're navigating by pattern and theme and feel. And this is a very different world. It's a more intuitive world. You're intuiting your way through your world and working by pattern and theme and feel, not by meaning. And of course, this has huge implications for communication, has huge implications for interaction, and huge implications for learning, huge implications for the way that you relate to your senses. So that was the three phases of autism model, and that was the forerunner, the foundations to developing the later model of autism as a fruit salad. Thank you.